Hello everybody, and this is Mr. Frazier, and I'm sitting here and I'm going to go through the Chapter 2 test corrections. Okay, please remember, this is Form A that I'm going over. There were 4 forms of the test, A, B, C, and D, and it is up to you to match the question that you need. Okay? They are the same questions. They are not, and I'm going to repeat this, they are the same questions, but they are not in the same order. So you have to find the question for you. All right? Remember that all of the copies of the tests are located on my Moodle page, and that as I go through it, you are to do your work on a separate sheet of paper. There are 3 things you're responsible for: the original question, the work to show your answer, which would be the correct answer, and then telling me what you didn't know to do the problem. In other words, I will hint on some of the things that I've seen. Your reason might be the same as that. Your reason may be different. But there are different reasons why you didn't get the problem correct. Please don't tell me because I did it wrong. That's not a correct reason. So we'll look at the first one, and I will do the first one and then give you a sample reason. So what is the solution to the equation? So we are supposed to solve this, and it has parentheses, and we always get rid of the addition and subtraction first. You can still follow all those same rules. So if I get rid of the subtraction first, it would be I have to add 8, and I'm left with 4x minus 3 equals 24. The next thing would be divide by 4. Now some of you can distribute and then do the same problem. You may be comfortable doing that like you did before, but you can't distribute when you have absolute value. So it's kind of good that you treat the absolute value and the parentheses the same, and you'll get the same answer still. Alright, so if I divide by 4, I now have x minus 3 equals 6. Last step would be to add 3, and I will get x equals 9. So some people didn't get rid of what's outside of the parentheses first. Some people multiplied incorrectly. Like if you were going to distribute, this would be 4x minus 12 minus 8. Some people didn't add this right. Negative 12 and negative 8 is negative 20. So I'm letting you know that there's several different ways you could have done the answer, but I like showing you the same way that you do absolute value and the same way you do parentheses. You can go ahead and get rid of everything outside the parentheses, and you do the parentheses last. Some teachers taught you to distribute. I would avoid that. Okay, so here we go. Again, here's another absolute value problem. So in this problem, I get rid of everything outside the absolute values first. So I'd minus 3. And I'm left with 2x minus 6 equals 16. Then the next would be divide by 4, because this 4 means to multiply. Remember, there's no sign, it means multiply. So I'm going to reverse that by dividing by 4. And I'm left with the absolute value of 2x minus 6 equals 4. Now I can get rid of the absolute value signs. I write the problem twice. Now, if this was a negative 4, could I go any further? No, because there would be no solution. But it's not a negative 4. So I have 2x minus 6 equals 4, and 2x minus 6 equals negative 4. And I solve both those problems. Right. So for this problem, it becomes 2x equals 10. Divide by 2, you get x equals 5. So one of my answers is 5. So that means it's either this one or this one. Then I do the other problem over here. And when I add 6 to both sides again, I'll get 2 and divide by 2 so that my other x is 1. So that means this is the answer. All right. Problem 3. Again, solve the linear equation. So I could take this 102 and put it on the other side. It doesn't make a difference. So I just do 11 minus negative 11, x plus 16 minus 19 equals 102. The first thing I do is get rid of the addition and subtraction, which would be negative 19. So I add 19. That's 121 equals negative 11 x plus 16. And now I divide both sides by negative 11, and I get x plus 16 equals negative 11. And from right here, you should realize I can't have an answer, because this can't be an answer to an absolute value problem. There is no solution here. Okay, problem 4. The graph shows which intersection. So here's the graph of my line, it's decreasing, and here's the intersecting point. Where is the x value? Hopefully you know that it's less than 20. So, but the f of x, which is my y, is less than 30. So when the f of x is less than 30, I'm looking for the f of x is less than negative 30. So it can't be this problem, it can't be this problem, it has to be one of these two, because the f of x is less than negative 30. That's negative 26 and a half. Now, what is the equation of the original line? Well, hopefully I know that this tells me I'm adding 10. I'm starting at a positive 10. So now when I look at my answers, I know that C has to be the answer, because it's the only one that starts at positive 10. The other one would start at negative 10. All right. Problem 5. Alex saved $65. He already spent $25. He plans to spend $8 on a movie ticket each month. Each month, X. Okay. That means the independent is time measured in months. And it would be 8x, $8 per month. He's already spent $25. That means minus 25. But if I spend $8 per month, that means I'm spending $8 per month, which means it's negative 8. Now that's the big part. If you're spending money, it's minus 8. So my only choices would be A or D so far, because those are the only two where I'm spending money. And I've already spent $25. So if I've already spent $25, that means I started at negative 25. So my answer would be A. I cannot spend any more money than $65. Everything I spend must be less than or equal to 65. Now that was the easy part of the problem. That's why all of them had less than or equal to 65. Can't mess that up. But you needed to know that when you spend money, that's minus, and when you spent money, it means minus. Problem 6. Which compound inequality does the graph represent? This graph represents all answers, all numbers greater than negative 5. Because it goes this way. So all numbers greater than negative 5. Correct? Well, let's see. They reverse it. If I reversed it, then my answer would look like that. All right. Now, what could you have done? You could have solved that inequality problem twice and then found out what your compound inequality was. In other words, you do this one and you graph it. So these right here would have been like this. If I would have graphed this one right here, all the numbers less than 5, all the numbers less than 5 looks like this. That's not the OR inequality. In other words, the OR inequality would have this on it, and it doesn't. So you know that can't be the answer. It's got to be the other way. You want all the numbers greater than -5, which is the same as its inverse. You switch the signs, you switch it. Now this is written incorrect, but it's understanding what direction is the shading going. Alright? And then again, I would need all the numbers greater than another number. So hopefully you know it would have to be B. When I solve this, I subtract 7, I would have 3/5 x is greater than 3. So now, as I solve this, I would have all the numbers greater than this. Okay. What is the value of the linear absolute expression? Now you're doing the arithmetic. So hopefully you understand that you were supposed to add first, because it's on top, then divide by 4, then do the absolute value. This time you're doing all the work inside the absolute value first, because you're not solving for x. You're just doing math, arithmetic. So -17 and 8, correct, is -9 divided by 4, which is 9/4. Because everything inside of this becomes positive. All right, problem number 8. Gasoline costs $3.95 per gallon. That's 395x. Which graph correctly shows the number of gallons bought for $7.90? So what shows $7.95? So 35 cents a gallon. Where am I going to start? Hopefully you know you would start at 0. Because if you have not bought any gas, you're not paying for any gas. Here, you'd be paying for gas and not buying any. Here, you would be buying gas and not pumping any. Okay? So, it's the amount of gas, and you're looking at the graph, you know that gallons is your independent. So that means this graph can't be right, because here it has dollars as the independent. You know gallons is the independent. Per gallon. Gallon, gallon, or gallon. So it's one of those three graphs. And you know it has to start at 0, 0, meaning if you don't pay for gas, if you don't pump any gas, you don't pay for any gas. 0, 0. You never pay for gas that you've not pumped, nor do you get to pump free gas. So you've got either D, that starts at 0, or B. So if I put that equal to $7.90, because this is an output, I can solve and see how many gallons of gas that is. Hopefully you can see that if I divide by 395, I find out that it's 2 gallons of gas, which would be B, or would it be D? See, 2 gallons of gas here says it costs $25. Okay? So it's not D, it must be B. Okay, next problem. Number 9. What is the solution to the compound inequality? Well, you'd have 85 is less than or equal to 17m, and then 17m is less than or equal to 136. You divide both those by 17, then pick the answer. Please make sure you're paying attention to the inequality in your answer. And the nice part about this one is the inequality going to switch? No, the inequality won't switch. Sorry, I got to make sure I show you this. I apologize. Remember, you write it like this and like this. Cover this part, you write that part. Cover this part, and you write that part. And you solve both of them, You're dividing both of them by 17. But remember, the inequality won't flip because the number in front of them is not negative. Okay, problem number 10. What is the solution? And again, you can do all the work backwards. So I get rid of the 8 by dividing by 8. If you wanted to, you could distribute and solve it that way as well. Whatever you feel more comfortable with. I tell you, I like the short route. Divide by 8, I have 7 minus x is less than 8, because 64 divided by 8 is 8. And then I'm going to subtract 7, and I get negative x is less than 1. But can I have a negative x as an answer? No. And if I change that sign, I have to change this sign, and I have to change that sign, so it becomes x is greater than negative 1, or all my numbers greater than negative 1. Problem 11. Which graph represents this compound inequality? Well, let's see. Negative 32 would be an open dot. So I got to find negative 32 with an open dot. There's only one. It's right here. And that would be my answer. There's only one open dotted 32. Negative 32. And it's right here. This is 28 because it's between 20 and 30. Could be any number between 20 and 30, but it's definitely not 32. This one is between 20 and 30. This one is bigger than 32, or excuse me, bigger than 30, negative 30. It's over here. It's smaller than, excuse me, but it's on the right side at least, but it's not an open dot, it's a closed dot. And typically OR problems will go in the opposite direction. That doesn't mean they all will, but typically they do. And problems are the ones that interlock. They go from one point to another. Okay, number 12. Find the rate of change. This is the same as first difference. So you're supposed to do 4 minus 1. Remember, the y's go on top, 4 minus 1, and 1450 minus 1140. This is 3 over 310. And then you do this division. You do that division and you will get a decimal answer. But remember, it's the y's that go on top and the x's go on the bottom. So 4 minus 1 and 1450 minus 1140. Which compound inequality has no solution? Well, a no solution inequality only happens in AND problems, which means it would be here or here, because the other ones are OR problems, which means you can have answers, because it's this answer or that answer. AND problems, what is a number, or all the numbers, less than 5, and all the numbers less than negative 2? Well, that one makes sense. I can find a number that's less than 5 and less than negative 2. Negative 7 is less than both of those. But this one says pick a number, all numbers greater than 5, all numbers less than negative 4. So if I had all numbers less than negative 4 and all numbers greater than 5, there is no answer there. I don't have one. So it would be this one, C. AND problems are the only ones that could have no solution. Problem 14. The graph shows the solution to which linear absolute value equation. So this would be all the numbers less than or equal to negative 10 and all the numbers greater than or equal to 15. Okay, so let's look at the first problem. If we separated it, it would be 2x minus 5, 2x minus 5, and you have greater than or equal to 35, and less than or equal to negative 35. And you'd solve. You'd add 5 to both sides. You get 40 is less than or equal to 2x. Minus 5, or excuse me, add 5, which gives you negative 30, is greater than or equal to 2x. I divide both those by 2. I get x less than or equal to 20. All the numbers. Divide by 2. I get, x, all the numbers less than or equal to negative 15. All the numbers greater than 20. So this first one is not correct. Okay? So I know it's not minus. Let's change the number. So in essence, in order for you to get this right, you would have had to do all 4 problems until you find the right one. And in actuality, you would only do 3 of the 4 problems. Because once you get to the 3rd problem, if that's not the answer, the 4th one has to be true. Problem 15. You can't just guess. There's no shortcut. 15. What is the value of the linear absolute expression? Which means you now are doing the math. You're not solving for anything. There's no variable there. So you do the absolute values first. Why? What's in the absolute value goes first in the order of operations. When you're solving a problem, you do everything backwards. So that means the linear absolute value would be last. But in this case, you do what's in first. So this is 15 minus, and what's in here? That answers a negative 6, but because the absolute value, it makes it 6. 15 minus 6 is 9. Okay, 16. Jasmine is practicing juggling. So hopefully you understand, when she juggles, the ball goes up and then comes back down. Right, one ball straight up in the air to a maximum height of 16 feet. She knows she can then toss the second ball anytime the first ball is greater than 10 feet. Greater than 10 feet. She can toss the second ball when it was greater than 10 feet. So which graph has greater than 10 feet? Hopefully you understand there's only 2 to pick from. It would be either B, which is greater than 10 feet, or D, which is also greater than 10 feet. Well, when you juggle a ball, hopefully you know, does it go straight up and straight down? Well, let's think about it. You've watched someone juggle. Is it straight up and straight down, or is it more direct? So what do you think? Straight up and straight down, or more direct? I'll give you a few seconds. Straight up or straight down, or more direct? What do you think? So straight up and straight down would look like this. Do the balls go through the air like that, or do the balls go through the air like that? Correct. The balls go up in the air like this. When you throw a ball up in the air, it doesn't do that. When you're juggling, it moves in a circular motion, or similar to, which means it would be this function. 17. Thomas is training for a marathon. He runs the first 3 miles of his practice run at a constant speed. 3 miles at a constant speed. Thomas runs D in terms of speed. So the distance in terms of speed, D of S. D of S. So D of S equals 3S. Remember that the variables must match. So those match, those match, those match, and those match. The problem is when we move at a constant speed, that means we're increasing. So it's This one can't be true because you can't have the D in the parentheses and an S out here. They have to match. This isn't true because that's division. And when you're doing 3 miles per run, well, that's a multiplication problem. So now am I trying to find out the distance? This would be the speed of distance. That doesn't make any sense. The distance of speed is 3 times the speed. Right? All right. 18. Find the value of this, f of x. And they give you what the x is 4.2, so that means you're doing negative 3.25 times 4.2, negative 4.2, plus 22.41. This is a calculator problem. You multiply this, you should know 2 negatives will make a positive, then you add 22 to it. Hopefully you know that this number is going to be big, because it's $22.41 plus at least $12. Like, I don't even have a calculator, and you should be able to know that 3 times 4 is 12. So if I have more than $3 and more than $4, I'm going to have more than $12. $12 and $22, there's only one number here that's bigger than $22. So even if you knew you didn't have a calculator, when you multiply these, they're going to become positive. This number's already at 22, which means the answer's got to be bigger than 22. Here's the only answer bigger than 22. 19? No, 19. 19 says, what is the solution to the absolute value problem? A very basic one, because now you have negative x plus 18 and negative x plus 18 equals 7 and negative 7. You would do the math. You get negative x equals 25, or excuse me, 11, negative 11 and negative x equals negative
Pool, please come to the
35.
office for a phone call.
Now, we can't have negatives, so we change it to positive, so positive equals, correct, positive 11, and positive x equals positive 35. If you change one sign, you got to change them all. Notice the equal sign doesn't change because when you flip it, it would be the same. Okay? And I'm sorry, this is supposed to be 25. Oh, my mistake. So x is greater than 11 and x is greater than 25, which would be A. 20. Which graph shows the solution to the inequality? Hopefully you know I would multiply this whole problem by 12 to get rid of the fraction. So I'm left with negative 7x. And 3 times 12 is 36. Notice it looks like this on a math problem. Multiply both sides by 12. When I multiply this side by 12, they cancel out. Multiply this side by 12, I get 36. Then I'm going to divide by negative 7. And because I'm dividing by a negative, you flip the inequality. So 36 divided by negative 7 is going to give me a negative number, right? So now I'm looking for all the numbers less than that negative number. So I know it's got to be open dot. They're all open dot. It's got to be less than, so it's got to be going in this direction. So there's only 2 that go in that direction. And I know this number is bigger than 1. That's what this is. So it's got to be A. I don't even have to know the exact number. I just know that number is bigger than 1. Because 1 is where it would be 7 over 7. That's 1. So this is 36 over negative 7. It's bigger than 1. So it's bigger than 2. It'd be 14 if it was 2. All right? Then the last one. This should have been the easiest because of the format. It's just like Carnegie, right? So what are the dependent and independents? The dependent is amount earned in dollars and time worked in hours. It's already set up for you. This is always your independent. This is always your dependent. You should do that. But time is always independent. You can't stop time. So that should be the easy part. It was time, the independent is time worked in hours and amount earned in dollars. Independent, dependent. Determine the rate of change, the unit rate, which means you subtract, and your y's are over your x's. So that would be 27 minus 2250 over 3 minus 2.5. And when you get that answer, you get 4.5 over 0.5. You have to do this division problem, which gives you 9. And then it's over 1. It's a unit rate when the denominator is 1, not when the denominator is 0.5. Then you would take 9, and hopefully you know that it's $9 per hour, which would be 9t. So that means at 5 hours, it would be $40, 45. Because 5 times 9 is 45. And 9 times 6 is 54. And this one would be 40 and a half, I believe. Okay? And that's completing the table. And then use the function. So that means I do f of t is equal to 9t. Okay? The f of t is equal to 9t. And they told me if it was 7.5 hours. So it would be the f of 7.5 is equal to 9 times 7.5, which I believe is 6750. All right? Do those corrections. Remember to study it. Hopefully you told me what you did wrong. Like, I didn't know I was supposed to divide the y's over the x's. I didn't know I was supposed to have a unit rate where the denominator is 1. These are the things that you should be doing. All right? That's what you write as your explanations. So you should have explanations for this entire test. I wish you well. Enjoy the weekend. Remember, we have a 9 weeks test on Friday the 17th. It's double the test score, so that if you do really well on it, it should move your grade up to at least passing. All right. And I wish well to all those that do the test corrections and retake the Chapter 2 test. That will help your grade tremendously as well as working on that Carnegie software. Get those quiz grades up. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day. And enjoy the weekend.